I'll be the first to admit, and probably like a lot of you out there, you struggle with alocasias. They might only have like 1 or 2 leaves. They'll look healthy for a period of time and then they'll lose their leaves and then it'll just look like absolute trash. Now I attribute this to a couple of reasons for me specifically. One being I don't have a really humid environment, which a lot of varieties prefer. Fairly high humidity as well as pretty decent light, so high light situations. The other thing with these plants in my conditions is I don't provide consistent care. I tend to let my plants get a little bit too dry. These roots are very fine and fibrous, so it doesn't take much for them to dry out, and then when you water it, basically they turn to mush and it's in that root rot situation. So all the leaves will probably die or fall off. It'll go into a dormant state. And then eventually it will start to produce new roots and push out new growth. And it just happens to be kind of stuck in that cycle of it grows some healthy leaves, it dies back, and I just couldn't keep it out of that cycle until I changed one thing. I don't have any massive example plants other than this Alocasia tanderusa. It's got some pretty large leaves, but what's been an absolute game changer for me is placing my alocasias in lechuza pond. This is a semi-hydro method. It's in a self-watering pot. You can see there's water in the reservoir. It has these 2 little ropes that wick up water as well. But what's been the major difference that I've noticed since placing it in lechuza pond is obviously the roots stay wet or consistently wet. They don't go through that dry and then after you water to wet cycle. And I just want to show it right here. This little leaf is one of the original ones, and since placing it in lechuza pond, you can see the size difference between the two, and they are keeping their leaves. They're not getting a new leaf and then dropping old ones, except with probably this one's gonna die off at some point, but it is consistently getting new leaves as well. Right there, there's a new leaf coming in. Just off the side of the petiole, it kind of sprouts out. But overall, it looks really, really healthy. Now, I can't remember the name of this one, but it has a fairly thick stem. It's got one off to the side here. But this little container should just be absolutely packed with roots, like this one right here. This is the golden bone. It should have a root system that looks like this. But, as you can see, it has very thin roots. These are kind of newer roots, but it's pretty much lost all its leaves. They're tiny, they're deformed. This one is getting kind of like little yellow spots. This largest leaf is the last one remaining of this size. It's just not looking good, and anytime I see yellowing leaves or leaves that are smaller, then most likely it's a problem with the root system. And with this one, with the exception of like one root at the bottom, there's really not many roots in the pot. You can even see right here, looks like some brown dry roots. This is generally what happens with my alocasias when they're in soil, but since placing them in lechuza pond, they have a root system that looks like this. Super healthy white roots. This one will need to be repotted at some point as well. But like I said, this has been the biggest change that I've noticed in my plants, is that they keep their leaves, they consistently get new leaves, and they always have a healthy looking root system. I'm going to show you 2 ways how to transition an alocasia from soil to pond. Now I do have 2 examples. This is the Alocasia Dragon's Breath. It has been repotted or transferred recently into pond, and you can see all of those healthy white roots already poking through the side of the pot and even at the bottom here. So this is one of the original leaves, and it's got some new little sprouts coming through on the side here. I believe I did plant some corms. When I found them in the soil, I just put them in the lechuza pond as well, and they're already sprouting. I don't know if you can see it or not, but this recently flowered, but there is a new growth point kind of popping through right there. So far this one has done really good transitioning from soil to pond. The other example is just the regular green. I know it's not called the Frydek, it's the Micliolitziana or something like that, but here's one of the original leaves. You can see it's not looking the greatest. There are 4 stems or 4 separate plants in this pot, as well as some corms in here, I do believe. The original leaves on these ones did die off, so I cut them off yesterday. So do expect some struggle, so to speak, with the plant, but it will recover and it will regrow new leaves. There are no roots poking through there yet, but it will go through a transition period. But as you can see, they are still healthy, they're green. I have complete confidence that they will bounce back. I've also switched over a couple Anthurium to Lechuzapon, and as you can see, it's not responding the same as the alocasias. So yeah, I'll keep trying with this method, but I'm not hopeful. I'm not seeing the same healthy results I am with these alocasia. This is the dragon scale, which I had featured in a video a couple of years ago where it was dying. I bought this like during the pandemic type period where it was quite expensive. All the roots died back, I lost the leaves, and I saved it in perlite. Now, perlite is a fairly similar concept to the Lechuzapon. It provides good airflow, good drainage, but it is, like I said, in the semi-hydro mix right now. Ooh, one long juicy root. And this plant has been doing really well since being in pon. It's got all these little cute little leaves. So with that being said, I have one more self-watering pot. Comes with this insert. Obviously here's the outer pot or the reservoir. And let's take this one out and check out the roots here. So pretty much all I'm doing is just loosening up the soil here, and I want to remove all of the soil around the roots here. So as you can see, all these little thin fibers right here, that is a root. It's all died and rotten. So this is what I'm talking about when those roots dry up, and then when you give it water, it basically just turns to mush. So these two are attached. It had a little rhizome that has sprouted this plant. I'm going to remove that from the mother plant. It was connected right there, just this tiny little portion. You can see right here as well, that little piece was connected. So I'm just gonna kind of yank all of these rotten roots off, or dried roots. So I'm left with this little one leaf stem like that, and I'll wash that off. I'm just gonna find my pruning shears, and I'm actually going to cut the majority of these roots. I'll cut it like in half. Now, some people say, or I've read, that when you transfer a plant to Lechuzapon, it might be beneficial to cut off all the roots, just because when you place it from soil to water or semi-hydro, some of these roots will probably rot as well. But with the other varieties that I've already switched over to Lechuzapon, I haven't had an issue. So I'm going to leave just a little root system like this. That should be sufficient. I'm just going to clean off all the edges. So I'm going to take this over to the bathroom, spray off all of the soil that's still kind of lodged in there. And what I'm going to do now is just go through here and making sure that there's no lost corms, because there was only one. I'm just going to set that aside, this little guy right here. This will be an entirely new plant, which I'll place in the pond as well. So I'm just going to sift through the soil. So here's another one. Gonna have a big juicy one. Set those aside and just literally stick them in Lechuzapon as well. So here's my bag of Lechuzapon, and the nice thing about this specific one is it actually has slow release fertilizer in the mixture here. You can see like these little orange fertilizer balls. So alocasias are known for like being fairly heavy feeders, so make sure you fertilize if you don't actually have the slow release fertilizer in this mixture. So just be kind of mindful of that. So all I'm going to do is just place the plants in the little insert like this. I'm just going to hold them upright just so they remain upright. And then I'm just going to dump in the Lechuzapon. Now I have had some people say like, don't you rinse your pond? I don't. If you keep rinsing it, you're just washing away nutrients essentially. So I don't rinse it before I use it. It's not like leca or anything like that. So I'm gonna give this a good thorough watering here as soon as I'm done filling it up. And where's those little corms? I'm just gonna place these two little corms in the corners, just slightly below the soil line. Actually, I'll put them together maybe. Just right across from the water gauge. I'm just going to lay them right in the soil like that. And then I'm just going to add the pon on top. When you water pon, it basically, it doesn't like pack it down like it would with soil compaction, but definitely it'll help solidify the placement. And yeah, it'll be very, very stable once I give it some water. So I'm just adding the level of pon just below the top of the pot. I'm simply going to water that in like that. I'll let it drain out the bottom, and then I'll place it in the insert like so, or the pot like that. And then I'm going to add water until the water gauge is about half. And this is how I water them when they are established in the pond. So like that. We'll just wait for the little water gauge to start popping up. Might take a little bit before the water starts to trickle down. You can see it's already kind of popping up. If you go above the max line, you can always just dump some water out. So we're gonna, come on, get going. Sometimes they get stuck. Whoop, there you go, he's popping. So about halfway is what I typically do. And if you need to take some water out, I usually just take the little gauge out. You can remove it from the pot like that, and then you can just pour some out. But you can see it looks pretty like dusty and dirty, but that's okay. It's full of nutrients from the slow release fertilizer. When I water this plant, I will always water it from the top and let it kind of trickle down. I don't remove the insert and then just add water into the reservoir, because there's still roots at the top of the pot that needs to be watered. So I'll let it kind of trickle down into the reservoir, and if I need to add more or remove water, then that's how I do that. So I'm going to set that aside. Now I'm going to grab this alocasia cuprea. It is in a self-watering pot. It's in lechuza pond, but it's got a very long stretched out stem. Now I don't like this look, and it's already getting to be a little bit top heavy. It's got 3 leaves on it right now, and it has basically one nice chunky root out the bottom. So what I'm going to do with this one is actually water propagate. The reason why I'm doing this is because once it's in water, it should transition into lechuza pond quite easily afterwards. Now you can simply get a larger or taller pot and then place this plant lower in the pot, and that should help correct that kind of floppy stem. But I'm going to cut right here like that, and I'm going to take this top portion. I'm not going to let it callus over or anything, and I'm just going to plop it in a container of water like that. Now I have run experiments in the past of chopping the top off and then leaving this stump, but I've never really had any good success with the mother plant or the main stem pushing out a new growth point. It's always usually a rhizome. So I'm going to keep this one in the pot for now just to see what it does. I'm just going to set it aside. But once this gets a root system, then you can just pot it up in a container pond simply like these other ones. Just place it in the pot, put the pond in, give it a good thorough watering. Make sure you have water at the bottom of the reservoir. Doesn't matter which pot you use. There's a few different varieties. But that's pretty much how I'm going to propagate this one. And once it's ready to be potted up, then I'll just place it in another self-watering pot. One thing you'll never hear me say is that this is the absolute best method, and that's just simply not the case, because there are many ways of growing the same plant. Your conditions might be different. My house is fairly dry. I live in a dry part of Canada, and the conditions itself is just not consistent. You know, if you live in a tropical region where you get lots of heat, humidity, and sunshine, then these probably will do well in just like a regular tropical plant mix. For my house conditions, in my environment, this is what has been working well for me. Soil, it dries out too quickly. By the time I get to it, then those roots are already pretty dry and crispy, and it's a goner. So I will never say this is the absolute best method and you have to go run out and get it. If you're struggling with alocasias and you want to try something different, definitely give pon a try. But otherwise, I think that's going to be pretty much it for this video. I'll provide some updates with my cuprea here down the road. But if you have any other comments or questions, please leave it down below in the comments section. Thanks for watching all my videos. Take care, everyone. Bye.